And the Spirit he knows how to talk to you. He speaks in your language. And he got in my head and my heart and said, Heidi, you pull it together right now. This is your girl and she's coming for a reason.
Hey, everyone. You're in for a treat. I interviewed Heidi Simpson on the show, and she is refreshingly honest and very candid. Born in Provo, Utah in 1980, she grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, not Kansas. At age 18, she went to Brigham Young University, where she studied home education and graduated with a 4-year degree. At age 22, she married Thomas Simpson in the Bountiful, Utah temple. From there, they moved to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where Heidi discovered her tribe of people and now says, roll tide, roll as much as possible. She has 4 children, Reagan, Scarlett, Athena Blythe, and Herschel. They currently reside in Waycross, Georgia, but have lived in several locations in the country. The gym is her sanctuary, and her current lifting stats include 115 pounds on bench, 215 on squat, and 225 on deadlift. We talk about how she went from a cardio queen to a weightlifting beast. We discuss some of her early life struggles, as well as what she is faced with now in having 2 of her 4 children on the autism spectrum. Let's find out what she does to maintain her spiritual strength and how she and her family find joy in living the gospel. All right. Well, we have Heidi Simpson with us today. Thank you for accepting the invitation.
So glad to be here. I'm always willing to talk about myself.
Absolutely. Do you know how I come up with you as an idea as far as interviewing you?
I'm friends with your wife.
Yeah. Well, you were given a talk in Sacrament meeting, and which was a great talk, by the way.
Thank you.
And so I said, you know what? She'd be a great person to have on the show.
I'm a rare breed that I actually really enjoy giving talks.
Yeah.
I get excited. I'd never make the joke about hiding from the bishopric. I'm like, really? What do you want me to talk about? How long? Every week? Yes.
Right. So you're one of those, you look for the phone call.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah. I think it's great.
Very good. So you are actually our 4th interview that we've done, but you're the first one in the Georgia room. So, yeah.
Wow.
And we like to call this the Georgia room. I know you're, according to your bio, you're a big Alabama fan.
I am. I'm surprised I'm allowed in here, but my youngest son is named Herschel. So I feel like that allows me to vacillate between the two a little bit.
There you go. We don't like to say roll tide too much around here.
I say it a lot, but you know me, I say it a lot.
So did you become an Alabama fan before y'all moved to?
I had no concept of Alabama until we moved to Alabama, and we're going around town. We went to the first game, and the stadium full of, and I don't mean this negatively, obnoxious, rabid fans. And I'm like, these are my people. I am this obnoxious about things I love. And I felt very at home, and it was just a really incredible experience. So yeah.
So were you a football fan before that?
Sure. BYU, which is a different breed of football. And I grew up in Missouri, and there's always football there, but it wasn't until I came to the South and I'm like, I would like to be a part of this religion. It
is a religion for sure.
And I became a fan in 2003 when Alabama was horrible, like really bad. So it's not like a bandwagon thing. I didn't care they were losing. I'm like, I just wanted to be part of this.
With that atmosphere.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I had no idea they were like the greatest football team that's ever existed. You don't have to cut that part.
All right. Well, let's start out by getting to know Heidi a little bit. Yeah. So just tell me about your childhood, where you're from, siblings, parents, things like that.
Okay. I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, and the distinction from Missouri is very important to us Missourians because we are not Kansas. And I lived there my whole life. My parents are great members. My dad passed in 2010, but always active. Church was always who we are and were. And honestly, there are some, getting off on the wrong foot, there's some things that I don't think you realize when you grow up only in the church as your whole life. In some ways, that's a detriment to you because you don't get to figure out on your own as much. Right. There was so many expectations of you live this gospel, and I love it, and it's true. It wasn't until I got to BYU and I was around people who suddenly all these members of the church, which is amazing and great, but seeing them live the gospel differently than we had grown up and being finally put in a place where I had to figure out my testimony. Grateful for all the experiences, but it was so surprising to me to be like, oh, I'm a cultural member of the church. I really need to find my own testimony now. Right. So I feel like my husband, who is a convert to the church, part of me is so jealous that he got to say, oh, here are the clear distinctions. This is not cultural for him at all. He has no cultural membership. It's true. So I'm a member.
Right.
So anyway, but my family is incredible. I'm so grateful for my parents that everything they did was gospel oriented. They served. My dad's hobby was missionary work. It was
Okay.
always, there were times I'd be like, Dad, pass along card, not right now, because I'd be like, can we just talk to people and not bring up the church? But that's who he was.
That's cool.
So I'm really grateful for that.
So how many siblings did you?
I am second of 5.
Okay. And did any of them serve missions?
I am the only one that did not.
Okay.
I am the non-missionary.
Okay.
Full-time missionary. So
okay. Did you ever contemplate or
I
think
always thought I would. And when it came down to it, I remember, and I'm really open about this. In college, I struggled with anxiety. I still struggle with anxiety. I struggle with depression. And I had a bishop say, if you want to do this, great, we'll make it happen. But you have to realize the commitment of this is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no matter what is happening. And at the time I was like, I'm not mentally healthy enough to do that. And I'm grateful now that they've changed how they do missionary work. So people like me who were struggling could have made it work possibly. But at the time I just was like, you know what? I don't want to be a burden. The gospel's true, but I don't want to be a burden on other people because I can't handle it right now.
So that's interesting. So I've had a companion who struggled with anxiety, depression. He was on the medications and everything, and he ended up after he served with after he and I finished serving. We served together for 4 months, but he had only served for 21 months. And at that time, the mission president honorably released him and everything. But he did great as far as hanging in there and stuff. But it's interesting how the brethren have kind of changed thing over time and realizing the mental struggles that people can have with that. So growing up, as far as your aspirations, career aspirations, and things like that, did you see yourself being a working mom or a stay-at-home mom? Or
I did not actually see myself as a mom because, truth be told, I don't love children. I never babysat. I did it a few times and I was like, no, thank you. I don't want to do this for any amount of money. So it's very surprising to me now to be like, oh, I have 4 kids, because that's not just like dipping your toes in it, right?
Yeah, that's jumping in.
Right. And so I think it's definitely been, I knew I wanted to do something. I'm not sure what. I always loved theater. I love the fashion industry. Before Thomas and I moved to Alabama, I was a merchandiser for a brief period of time. And I felt like this is what I'm good at and I enjoy. And then once I started having children, the Lord was very clear, you're having children and you need to be very available to them. And things that happened down the road I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing, but I struggle now. I'm 40 years old and my youngest is about to turn 6. And I struggle now because I'm like, I've been a stay-at-home mom for so long and I've done the right thing. And that is good. And I love that. But now I feel like something's different on my horizon. I'm not sure what. Right. And I know what my number one priority is, but I want to do something different, but I don't know what. I do know what, but I want a lot more money first.
That's always a good thing to have. I've heard that often where moms that they stay at home and they make that sacrifice, because I believe it is a sacrifice. And as a matter of fact, a lot of times when you're asked, do you work or do you stay at home? I always say I work for no money. That's right. Exactly.
There's no money.
That's right. Exactly.
No glory.
It is definitely a working mom. It is a job for sure. With the things that you faced with, and that just people in general with raising children. I know. Let me ask you this, Thomas. How did y'all meet?
Okay, interesting story. We met over at a mutual friend's parents' house. The house I was living in that summer in Provo had no air conditioning. It was one of the hottest summers we'd ever had. So any chance we got, we went to a location with air conditioning. It was a Sunday afternoon. So we were playing board games with our friend Scott at his house, his parents' house. And Thomas showed up to borrow a vacuum because he had cleaning checks. And we were playing Trivial Pursuit. I am amazing at Trivial Pursuit. Okay. And Thomas is not here to refute anything I'm saying. And I'm grateful for that. And from that first meeting, like we didn't go out for months after that, but I remember that first meeting, I'm like, this guy is obnoxious and so pompous and so smart and sure of himself. I should hate him, but I like him. Hence my Alabama fascination. Right, and it makes sense, absolutely, right? I love things on that level. Yeah. So that's how we met.
So did he jump in and start playing the game, or
he
just,
jumped in,
okay.
and I think he was shocked at, well, my roommates and I were some of my best friends I've ever had. We were very aggressive.
Right.
And I think he was like, these girls are out for blood. And we were, and we won. So
that's cool. That's a cool meeting story there. So what was your major in college?
I have a degree in home economics, and it is not what I would have chosen. But I don't have a ton of regrets. I do regret in college not taking a 5th year, because there's college is 4 years, and that's usually how it is. I didn't have anything that I had loved, and the actual program I wanted to do, the fashion merchandising and design program, had closed down. And so I felt like I was a person without a tribe. And so I picked home ec because it had a lot of the classes I'd already taken. And I believe in home ec. I think it's a very crucial thing in our society. Right. Kids need to learn these things. But it was not like, it wasn't a love match. It was more, I should be done. But now I wish not more than anything. There's a lot of things I wish a lot more than that. Right. But wish I had said, take a 5th year. Who cares? It's just more money and just more time, but that's 1 year, right? So I don't know what I would have done differently, but it definitely would have been different than what I chose.
So you'd mentioned earlier about not really wanting to have children.
Yeah.
So at what point did that change?
Oh, well, God is in charge of biology. And so when you find out you're pregnant, you're like, I guess we're having a family. There's no charts here that I can walk you through it.
Right. But okay.
Yeah, it was definitely like, oh, this is the direction.
Okay.
And each subsequent child was very clear as day. This child is coming, and it wasn't planned. Like, it wasn't like, I hope I have more children. Not that I didn't hope against children. Right. You sound like a horrible person. That's not the soundbite I want when I run for public office. But I just never aspired to a large family, which large is subjective with 4. Yeah. But each one of them was a clear distinction. This person is coming.
I think in today's standards, I think for a family of 6, 4 children, that would be considered.
I go places and I feel like I'm like, we're all here.
That's right.
The circus is in town.
That's right. Well, any interesting proposal stories or anything like that?
We had actually broken up the night before.
Oh, wow.
Because Thomas, if you know Thomas, and he's wonderful, these are his best qualities, but they're also annoying when you're dating. He's very hardworking. He's very driven. We did mostly 99.9% dates to the library or to the gym. Okay. And those aren't bad things. Those are things I enjoy. But we went to a fireside, and I wish I had written down what it was. I could look it up. And it was, I wanted to get married. And part of me is like, in retrospect, there's all the time in the world. Don't rush into getting married. Don't. Right. It's fine. Everything's worked out fine. But in retrospect, I wish I would have been like, just play it out, right? It'll be fine. But I felt a lot of pressure that I was graduating. I needed to get married. I needed a reason to stay in Provo because I was on the 4-year plan and not the 5-year plan again. Right, see where that comes in? And the speaker was like, young men, you should stop hanging out. You should be dating and getting married. And I remember poking him in the arm. And I remember, if you know Thomas, don't poke the bear, right? So we broke up that night, and I wrote him this really mean note in highlighter, purple highlighter. Wow. Classy. It was like really well thought out move by me. Took it to his apartment, and apparently he laughed at it and thought that's ridiculous. And then the next morning he got up to go take a test, and he's like, I need to go propose to Heidi. He just knew, I'm going to go propose to Heidi. And I had just gotten out of the shower. I was in a towel and a t-shirt. It's like not like something you
right. Yeah. Like, not the most romantic
right.
setting.
My roommates are there. Thomas is here. We all hate him. Like, cause you know, we had spent the night before doing right, he's the worst.
Exactly.
And
it was
so
you had a Thomas bashing session.
Right. There, and so he comes in, everyone's like ready to rumble, right? And he gets on one knee, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're getting married. Yes. And so I think all my friends were like whiplash, but they knew. Everybody knew. Right. We were meant to be.
Well, that's good. That's a fun story right there. So y'all worked out together back then. I know you work out together now as well, like on Saturdays.
Yes.
And everything. So y'all been doing that for a while then.
Yeah. Different. It's been an evolution of fitness for me.
Okay.
And so back then it was more cardio queen.
Right,
and now
right.
I'm a totally different
Yeah.
beast emphasized now. So yeah.
So I noticed in your bio that
Oh, I had to add that.
Absolutely. Hey, I'm all about fitness and
Yeah.
working out and stuff. So I'm right there with you. So your bench press is 115.
Yes.
Right.
And I should be 135. I should be 245. I'm just not there. I'll get there.
You'll get there. Yeah. Your squat is 215.
215.
And your deadlift is 225.
Yes.
It's
Are
impressive.
we talking about hex bar though? Because hex bar is almost like the cheating bar. I could say 275 on hex bar.
That's right. No, I don't.
I should have said that.
Right. Exactly. So it's a straight deadlift on your on your 225. Yeah. That's the straight bar. That's yeah, I consider the hex bar a cheating.
Yeah, but sure. At the same time, if it's a down day, I'll get that bar out and I'll be like, let's just hit some numbers.
Well, my personal opinion is that the best exercise you can do is a deadlift.
Oh yeah,
it's really good. You got to be careful with them though. So have you always worked out? I mean, is that something you've always done? Have you, and actually tell me about your kind of evolution, your change there from doing a lot of cardio to lifting weights.
If we're going to play a sport later, you will not pick me. I am not athletic. I am not good at anything coordinated. I mess up the rules for most games. I'm not that person. And I feel like, and this is one of my soapboxes. So watch out.
Okay.
Our society has told women forever to be smaller, to be thinner, to be skinny, to be things that are not genetically possible.
Right.
And I believed that for a long, long, long time. So the beginning of my fitness journey, which makes me feel like I'm on The Bachelor, I thought just do cardio because muscle makes you bulky and you don't want to look bulky. Women are supposed to be small. And so I just did cardio all the time. I've done, I think, 10 half marathons, and I do enjoy running, but also not really. Yeah. Right. And so I spent a long time running and I was like, I feel amazing. And then I had a friend, she moved to our ward right after I had Herschel. So I've always done fitness, the high intensity interval training. I love boot camp. Always have done the fitness in the past, 15, 18 years. And then I had a friend that she showed up at church one day. She was new in the ward and she was ripped. And I was like, I'm going to talk to this girl. Right. She was just a specimen. And she told me about her workout routine. I just had a baby. So I was like feeling not my best. And she showed me what to do. And Thomas has always done lifting, but I almost didn't believe him. Like I needed a woman to say, this is going to work for you. Right.
Absolutely.
And Thomas is the biggest person on the planet. Like he can bench 405 for 2. So that's always been him.
Yeah, he's nice and broad. Got broad shoulders.
So for me, I needed to see it applicable to me.
That's
and so she took me around, showed me what to do. And I was like, this is who I'm going to be. This is who I'm going to be. And I love it. I feel so strongly about women needing to lift weights.
Right.
We carry humans inside our bodies. Yes, we're strong, right?
Absolutely.
There's no reason to not be lifting everything. Like when we pick up stuff at church, like clean up after an activity, I love to clean up the tables because some man always wants to help me. And this is where I'm very prideful. And I'm always just like, I'm fine. I've got it.
Right.
Because I like to be annoying. Roll Tide.
Hey, go Dogs. Come on now. That's good. And there's definitely been an evolution where weights and women is a lot. It's more promoted now,
right?
Especially with the CrossFit and things like that. So they come a long way. I remember my mother back in the late 80s, early 90s, going into to speak with the coach about not having her daughters lift as much weights as they were having them lift. She saw the change it was taking and she didn't like it. And so
we're scared of that. And I feel bad for women who have bought into that for so long because I was one of them.
Right. Well, just like anything, you got misinformation out there and
pick the fitness that you want to do.
Right.
You won't stick with something you don't want to do. If you want to have a strong heart, osteoporosis, if you want to avoid that, there's so many reasons I lift weights and aesthetics is great. I weigh more than I've ever weighed, even pregnant. I mean, that is a number of women mostly, right? But I actually feel amazing. That's not been something anybody in society has said, that's fantastic. It's a small contingency of people are saying, no, this is a great way to live.
Right. So that's actually a perfect transition to my next question is how does, you said you feel fantastic. Mm-hmm. How does lifting weights exercise and help you mentally?
The gym is my sanctuary. If you see me at the gym, don't talk to me. And here's the
Right.
thing, I want to make friends at the gym. I want to be friendly. I am personally offended if you don't clean up after yourself,
Right, yeah.
because this is my place where I get up early. I like to be at the gym at right before 5. Like, I like to be there early. I like to get it done because the children are asleep. No one's going to call me if I'm at the gym. It's a very almost spiritual time for me to work on some stuff. And so if I don't work out, it's fine. I'll live.
Right.
But it does something for me that's simply mine. The kids can't take that away from me. They can't take away that strength. That
Right.
strength benefits them. Like with Reagan, who we'll talk about, my 15-year-old, almost 16 with autism, who's bigger than me now.
Right.
I require that strength now to deal with him. He will be bigger than me for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
And he will live with us for the rest of our lives, probably. I'm going to need to be able to help him in any way possible. And Thomas,
Right.
he's not around all the time.
Right. Yeah, that's good. I know I like to refer to my working out as my physical therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm giving myself therapy mentally,
Right.
mental therapy by lifting weights, because it really does. It produces those endorphins and everything that your body needs, your brain needs, and everything. So that's good.
And that's not to say, I feel like I need to clarify. I still sometimes will look in the mirror and be like, I'm a really big person. I'm not a big person at all. And if I was a big person, that's not bad either.
Right.
Satan lives at the gym too.
Absolutely.
He wants you to say whatever you've accomplished is never enough. You're never going to look right. But he's amazing at what he does, right?
Very, very cunning, very,
right.
very crafty.
And so I feel like it's not all unicorns vomiting rainbows all the time. There are daily struggles of who you are now is a great thing to be.
Absolutely. That's great. I like that. So let's, so you mentioned your children. So let's talk about them a little bit. So you have 4 children.
4.
Okay. So tell me about them and your journey with having each one and things that you discovered and so forth.
Reagan is our oldest. He is going to be 16 in March. He is on the autism spectrum. He's almost like our learner autism. We figured out a lot through him. Scarlett is 13. And I was actually telling Scarlett this story this morning. Scarlett came to our family at absolutely the right time. Again, not looking to get pregnant. I was good with one kid, right? Every child had to be convinced, like, this is great news, right? And I was sick one night and I was bemoaning my fate. And I was like, oh, I'm pregnant again. And the spirit he knows how to talk to you. He speaks in your language. And he got in my head and my heart and said, Heidi, you pull it together right now. This is your girl and she's coming for a reason. And it was one of those, like, you don't get a lot of lightning bolt moments, right? A lot of those spiritual experiences are almost rear view spiritual experiences. Like, oh, I see where the spirit worked, right? But it was one of those, like, this is the moment that you get to choose how you're going to be. And so I wasn't magically not sick, but my attitude did change. I was like, okay, if this girl is coming and this is the time for her, and it has proven she's the glue of our family. She's my right hand. She probably has a lot of pressure on her because she's sandwiched between my children on the spectrum.
Right.
And that brings me to Athena Blythe, who her name means she is the warrior goddess. And that is the truth of truths.
Love it.
And she is 8 and she just got baptized in October, even though she turned 8 in April. And then that's a fight that we can talk about, getting her into the font and how I was the one that changed by the end of that fight. I was the one that saw, like, nope, let her figure things out.
Right.
And then Herschel is going to be 6 next week. He's our baby.
Nice.
Again, more surprised children. Like, I don't understand science. And here are all these kids.
There you go. So with Reagan, how far apart are Reagan and Scarlett?
Reagan and Scarlett are about 24 months apart. So just over 2 years. Okay.
So when Scarlett was on the way and that experience that you had, which was very, very powerful, felt the spirit very strongly when you shared that. So how much did you know about Reagan's situation at that time? Did you?
Not a clue. Like I said, being a mom was such a foreign concept.
Right.
You hear a lot in the church that women are the nurturers, and I believe that's true. I've had to search and dig deep to what that means for me because I'm not naturally maternal. I am not a natural nurturer. I don't care about people's problems immediately. I'm always kind of like, how big of a deal is this?
Right.
Where am I gonna? And that's on me. I acknowledge that. In college, I took a placement test to figure out what I should be doing, and it astoundingly, it was like, do not do anything that requires compassion, because you're just not a compassionate person, and I'm not. It's true. And so with Reagan, I just was kind of like, I guess this is what moms do. I guess this is what moms do. I don't know. It was very much trial by fire. I don't, even today, every day, I'm like, is this what moms do? Okay, let's hope.
Right. So at what point do you realize that that Reagan is on the spectrum with autism?
It was a long time, because now that we have seen how things go together, clear as day, right?
Right, exactly. Right. That looking back and you say, okay, like, now I can see everything.
Hello, that's autism, right? He was such a good kid to take on a road trip, because he could just sit in the back and be fine for like 12 hours. I'm like, what a great kid. That's autism, said the narrator. So it wasn't until he went to preschool in Kansas City, when we lived in Kansas City briefly. He went to a preschool. It was one of the ways that I feel like God is like, here's how this is going to unfold. Play along, and this is going to teach you some stuff. We lived in a really great ward. We had about 4 boys in the ward, all born on the same week in March. And Reagan was one of those boys. And so they always had these little playmates, and they all went to the same preschool together. And it was not until the preschool teacher took me aside. She's like, I cannot legally tell you this, but you need to check on your son. Something's wrong. And she didn't say wrong, and I don't lose my mind. People say wrong, because it's just not worth it. But she's like, you need to come observe him one day and see him in class. And she's like, I can't say autism, but she kind of was like, it's autism. Yeah, she's like, I'm not diagnosing, but show up. And so all these boys from Reagan's church class and our friends are all in this class, and they're all learning, and they're just loving it. And there's Reagan, not in the group, staring at the wall, laying on the floor. Like, and for me, it was very jarring to be like, it was like an Easter party or something. And all the kids are like, this is amazing. This is so fun. And then Reagan is staring at the wall. And I kept trying to talk to him, and I'd be like, come join the group. And he's like, no, I'm doing it. And his reaction was how he was doing it. He was like, this is how this took me such a long time to figure out how Reagan operates, his coping mechanisms, how he filters noise, stimuli, things like that. But that moment was such a huge, like, are you paying attention? This is what's happening. Because again, I don't know. I had a baby at home. I don't know. I hadn't seen this really. And autism is not the same in every child. Right. I should say now I have a nephew and a niece who also have autism. So I feel like just in my family, I've seen so many brands of autism. So from that point, I went to the pediatrician, because clearly we needed to be pushed in the right direction. I was very much in denial, but I couldn't deny what I saw at preschool that day. And I took him to the pediatrician, and he's having this meltdown. He's screaming and crying, and I've got a crying little baby Scarlet, and everything's just falling apart. And we got the wrong doctor. We've had a million great doctors and one really horrible one. And that was the one that I took him to. The first doctor. Wow. And she pretty much said, well, I can't help you because he's so out of control. You need to do something about his discipline. And so everything that I had hoped for her to see, I was just like, oh, so this is my fault. It took me another year to try again. So we just had another year of me being like, he'll grow out of this. This is me. This is my problem. I'm doing something wrong. So not that I'm advocating punching people in the face, but if there was ever a day where to go find someone to punch, it would be that doctor. She was very unkind. And so we didn't get help for a long time.
So that kind of goes into my next question there, as far as, do you, as a family now, and you'd mentioned Blythe is also on the autism spectrum. Do y'all find your interactions with the public, when you're out in the public and everything, do you find that most people are pretty positive interactions? Do you have some negative interactions, or is it a little bit of both?
There's a lot of both, and a lot of what has changed on it is my perception of it. 5-10 years ago, when it was just Reagan, I was just figuring things out, felt we were very obvious. Like, we are very obviously autistic. Look how we're being so autistic, because we were. Right. You can't hide it, Right. And but I started to care less and less. And a lot of really great people would come out of the woodwork. Again, a lot of terrible people would come up and give me parenting tips or what I was doing wrong. And, they will get what's coming to them, right? Or I will learn forgiveness and mercy. That's the real lesson. So I do feel like there are many experiences. I've had to let go of a lot of things. Like I just don't care as much anymore. And I think I've always prided myself on, I don't care what people think. That anybody can say until your family and your heart is on the line. And then I have many times I'm like, I don't care what people say, but I don't want to deal with ugly people. I don't want to deal with the comments. Kids that give us the side eye, and I don't blame children,
Right. Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, more parents should say, if you see this,
right,
you can ask questions, just don't make an ugly face. Right.
Right. Exactly.
Questions actually don't hurt. Questions are actually really welcoming to me. It's what's wrong with you? Like, does that ever feel good? No.
You've mentioned several times kind of your changing, your personal changing throughout this whole process. How did you kind of come to that realization that it's not me that needs to try and change my children, or, obviously we teach them and everything, right, teaching principles and stuff, but how did you come to the realization that it's more about you changing or adapting and so forth?
Well, I think the Lord kind of gives you a smackdown once in a while,
right,
when you cry to him about the things you're struggling with, and he will say, well, Reagan's not doing anything wrong. Blythe's actually not doing anything wrong. And that has been a big realization. And this is the gospel according to Heidi. I've gotten to the point now where I feel very strongly that at the judgment bar, when we are perfected, do you remember Scantron tests from when you were little and you would put it in the machine and right, all the wrong answers?
Right.
When my Scantron test goes through, it's going to be hitting a lot of bumps. When Reagan's goes through, it's going to be smooth sailing. His perfection is going to be a lot quicker than mine. Though he is going to be perfected from his disability, that's going to be nothing compared to the fixing I need. And I guess that's where I feel like I've had to come to terms with, he really isn't doing anything wrong. He struggles,
right,
but it's us. It's us. And I feel so much that I'm clearly at the mercy of other people's patience. I require so much patience from other people. And I had to spotlight myself and be like, but are you giving Reagan the patience he needs? Because if you want other people to let you have room to figure things out, you need to do the same with him. And that's been a very big lesson for me. And it's helped me be more patient with other people. I'm like, right, I just don't know what other people are dealing with.
Right. Yeah, I know with children, individuals that have autism or other disabilities and things, they're growing up learning about this life, right? And learning how to interact and do things just like everybody else is. But at the same time, they've got an extra thing. And whenever we as adults and interacting with those children, it's kind of like, why are you having such a hard time with this or that? But we haven't experienced what they're going through.
Their lens is so different than ours.
That's right.
And I forget that all the time,
right,
all the time.
That's a good thing to remember though. I like those points on that. How has Thomas been through all of this from your perspective and maybe what he says, I guess?
Well, Thomas is my champion in everything. He's always he's very dedicated to his work for a good reason. He's got a very hectic job, and those are all things I support. He's always provided. And so he always will defer to me on things, even if he thinks I'm being kind of nuts. And I appreciate that. And so with autism, I felt, because I definitely went through denial for a long time. I still feel like every once in a while I get in denial, like this is going to go away one day. Right. It's not. And I think he was in denial for quite a while though, because he didn't see what I saw. I think because he was at work, and he should be great, he did not see some of the things I saw. He didn't have the interactions I saw. I think I was able to fine tune some of my parenting because I could see things and put some of the pieces together, right, and be like, when this happens, this happens. And I think, and I wouldn't say he was in flat out denial, but I think he was very cautious. Like, are you sure? Are you sure you're not just struggling with a difficult child?
Right.
Many people have said that. Well, my
Right.
kid throws fits too. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, it's magnified so much more.
Right.
Yes,
It's
I mean
different.
every toddler
Right.
throws fits and things
Right.
like that, but
Right.
it's definitely
Is
different.
it because of the texture of his shirt? Is it
Right.
because the sock seam is not directly on the toe? It just things that you're like, this is crazy, but this is the reality. But we're definitely, I couldn't do it without him. We're 100% on board with each other on this now. It's been a process. I
Right.
think that's just marriage in general, figuring out where we're coming from, what we
Right.
see.
So I wanted to ask you about that as well. Unfortunately, you have divorce is common in society anyway,
And
right?
especially with special needs
And then
families.
when you have special needs families, I think it's even higher.
Mhm.
And I really hate to see that, because if a family requires two parents, it's that family
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
requires two parents in the home. So how have y'all been able to kind of, you said that y'all are on balance and
Right.
everything. How have y'all kind of treaded this road, this path with that? And
We had to get on balance. I think that's it, because I feel like we spent many years not in a power struggle. That's the wrong term. But I feel like when you don't see clearly what the other person is seeing,
Right.
when the perspective is different, when you know, there's just, I guess it is a power struggle to be like, no, this is happening. I think we've had to have many heart to hearts and say, I need you to trust where I'm coming from. And I've had to do the same with him too on a lot
Right.
of things. And it's a trial and error thing. It's a fight a bunch and cry about it thing. I just don't think you can get through it without like, everything was so great, the end. No, we've had a lot of times where we've had to hash things out, rehash things out. And guess what? Hash it out again until you figure out this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we're 100% on each other's, we've always been on the same team, but figuring out the level of dedication that requires has been really hard to be like, this is more than just saying, I support you. It's,
Right.
I need you to show up for this. I need you to do this. I need this to happen.
Very good.
So
have you ever had the question, especially since you grew up not really desiring children and then ended up with two on the spectrum? Have you ever had the question, why was I chosen for this?
1,000%. I don't understand when people say, and I never questioned this trial. I'm like, really? Because I did the math and I feel like I am inadequate for this trial. Right. So many times, just because I'm like, I don't think anybody chooses hard things. I think we make choices that give us hard things, but no one says, I want hard things in my life. Nobody does that. And this is absolutely a hard thing. You asked, and one of the questions you gave me said, do you see it as a burden? I'm like, yes, this is a burden. This is hard, but burdens make you stronger, and the Lord works through burdens. And if you don't want burdens, you're rejecting a lot of blessings. That's it.
Absolutely.
And and if there was a buzzer here that said, hit this buzzer and no more autism, I'd hit it so fast. I mean, so fast, because I don't want to do hard things, but that's the natural man.
Yeah.
When I think about what the Lord has in store for me based on the blessings he's already given me, I'm like, I will keep doing this. I will keep doing this. I'll keep doing it poorly. I'll have really hard days, but I will keep doing this. So it's been a burden and a blessing. It's made me a much better person. Like, I look who I used to be and I'm like, gosh, I was kind of selfish and terrible. But it took a lot of work to get to the kind of average person you see before you today. I'm not that great, but I'm better than I used to be. So it's absolutely also a blessing.
That's it makes me just think of the eternal principle is that whenever, I don't think when we're judged, when we meet God at that judgment bar, it's not going to be, okay, it's not going to be a check box. Okay, you did this over here really good, but this over here you did really bad at this and everything. It's going to be more. It's going to be who you have become.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it sounds like that you've got that understanding as well. That
I can't wait to see in 20 years how great I am, because it's a long road. There's a lot to work out still.
Yeah, I mean, you've gone from cardio to lifting. I mean, I know. You're constantly progressing.
Who knows what's on the horizon? Probably nothing, just resting. But one thing I was going to add, though, in my neighborhood growing up, it was a strange phenomenon to have multiple members of the church. And we actually had our next door neighbors were members of the church, and a family down the street were members of the church. So that was kind of a big deal because it's not a highly populated LDS area. And both of those families had a special needs member of the family. Okay. And now in retrospect, I can say, was the Lord nudging me along all along, letting me know from a young age, special people have value because these were families we knew. I saw how the mothers and the fathers operated towards these special kids. They were always valued members. And I can look back now and say, okay, the Lord he's planting a little bit in my mind so that I would always see my children as valuable, as always important members of the family.
Right. Absolutely. It's fun to watch Reagan pass the sacrament.
It is fun.
So he does a good job. Let me ask you about the sibling interaction.
Okay.
And how they, so you have Scarlett, who you said was sandwich.
Yeah.
In between. How does she do? And how do you cope with, teaching one way and one another way,
and not feel like I'm giving somebody a pass?
Correct. Yes.
That's, I don't know. I mean, I'm really bad at it. I will say one thing, if I'm being very honest, is I've had to tell Scarlett many times, because you want to be consistent with your children. Like, consistency is important. I've had to say, you understand why we have to do it like this, right? And from a young age, I've had like 5 years old and be like, no, I'm sorry. I know it seems really unfair we're doing it like this, but we just have to right now. I don't want to do it this way either. So I feel like from a young age, she has been the go along to get along. And I feel like I've probably compensated her financially as a result. Like, I'll buy her stuff and I'm like, I shouldn't buy her this, but she puts up with so much, and one thing I do fear though, because she's amazing. She values people. That's one of her things. She sees value in people because she's lived this life. But I do worry that I don't want her to see me shrill and stressed out, because when I see her shrill and stressed out with them, I empathize. I'm like, yes, I am about to lose it myself, but that's not her burden. She shouldn't be I should be the one that is taking that on. And so that is hard for me to deal with. Like, I don't want her to feel like she's the worker bee in the family.
Right. Like she's the one that has to step up.
Right. Yeah. And because she is, sometimes I just need her to let's just grease this wheel and go. And so that's the one thing I always tell her, I hope you go far, far away for college. I hope you live whatever life you want, because you have earned some freedom, but at the same time, I know she would never abandon her siblings. I know she knows that she will be intrinsic in their lives forever, because she's going to need, that's just the unity they have, the role she has.
That's right. And in situations like that, I think when you think about Heavenly Father's overall plan, you never know what the Lord is preparing Scarlett for, or Herschel for, and things like that and stuff. And the same is true for all of us when you got Reagan and Blythe. It's going to be fun to be able to when we have that opportunity to say, so why exactly did you do this?
Were you laughing at this moment? Because I know you laugh at some stuff.
That's right. Do you have anything else that you'd like to talk about as far as autism, special needs, or anything like that? Or
I mean, I could talk about this all day. This is just one of my topics. I mean, I live it. I speak it. I feel like I speak it so freely that sometimes I surprise people, I think, because I mention autism all the time. Like, well, when it's your life. And so I feel like I always encounter people who want to ask me questions, and I 100% welcome it. Like, ask me questions. I try and be really laid back about it. I have very strong opinions about certain things, but also the best thing people can do is ask questions and say, what do you think I should do? Or how do you feel about this? And I'm not the authority. I've just got my experience.
So if you would give us an example of how not to approach a mom that has special needs children and have witnessed something and how to.
Well, this actually happened a few weeks ago, and I wish I didn't go so steamed by it, because I was so mad, Thomas. Poor Thomas, like, you can be okay. And like, no, get in the car. We had just had church, and Reagan, the thing about Reagan and Blythe, Reagan is very visibly on the spectrum. He has a lot of nervous tics and mannerisms, and he can't control his body all the time, fine motor skill issues, and he has a very clear cognitive delay. Sometimes I call him my teenage toddler, because he, in a lot of ways, is like a 4-year-old, still watches all the same shows he watched when he was 4, does not care about anything age appropriate. He's like, why would I want to watch that? Mickey Mouse is on, right?
That's right.
And honestly, it's a joy. It's a joy to see someone so happy with their existence. Blythe is my sleeper autism person. We call her that because she can pass. You don't know she has autism.
Right.
She's just a very different brand of it. And so I actually feel like I have to convince people more with her. Like,
Right,
no, I
yeah.
promise she's not just being a jerk.
Yeah.
She's struggling. She does love to play the autism card, though. She doesn't want to do something. She'll be like, oh, I can't do that. I have autism. I'm like, that's not how this works. Or she'll say, I have autism, but my brother Herschel has jerkism.
Jerkism.
Which
That's hilarious.
that embarrassed me at the parks. I'm like, some kid is going to be like, that's a real condition. Well, it is a real condition, but not diagnosable. Anyway, no, a few weeks ago, so Reagan's passing sacrament, obviously on the spectrum. And I had actually spoken in church that same Sunday about our life and our experiences. And a lady came and found me afterward. And this happens every time. Again, I don't mind the questions. I don't want you to give me a remedy. I don't want you to cure it.
Yeah,
because
right,
you can't.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's fine. Like, I liken it to if I had cancer and someone said, well, are you going to get treatment? I'm like, well, no one says no to cancer treatment. No one says no chemo. I'd rather just wing this one. You know, everyone does their thing to help themselves. So this lady comes up to me and she's like, I know what can fix your son. First of all, fix your son. That's fighting words. Don't say that. Right.
Yeah, that's pretty bold and rude.
Yes. And so I'm just like, okay. And she starts telling me this story about her grandson used to have nervous tics and this special powder she had could fix it. And now he's on a mission. And I was like, okay, well, that's wonderful news for your grandson. I said, does your grandson have autism? No, but this can fix your son. And I'm just like, that's when I'm like, you're going to get leg tackled. Right. You're going to get hurt. And we're outside of church. Like I do have a vision of me getting arrested outside of a chapel someday for fighting a ward member. I'm hoping it's over Sunday school issues and not my family.
Right.
But I had to just say, no, thank you, until she walked away because I was so angry. And I don't know where I'm going with the story. I'm really mad right now. No, just don't do that. Don't fix us. Ask any question you want if you're being inquisitive and curious and actually care, but don't show up with some remedy because assume I'm doing everything I can.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a strong approach for sure to come up and say, hey, I've got all the answers for you right here.
And have no autism experience.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
But then there are beautiful experiences where people, like, if you see Reagan pass the sacrament, I guess that's my issue is like, this lady saw his twitches and his hopping and his nervous movements. And every time I see Reagan pass the sacrament, I am so touched by how, first of all, he loves church. Blythe hates church, but he loves church. And he wants to be like the Savior. And like, if you watch him pass the sacrament, my only thought is he's being like the Savior. He's acting like Jesus Christ. The priesthood is manifest through this very imperfect person. So if you're not seeing that, you've got a self-assessment you need to look at.
Right. That's awesome. That's neat right there.
And his shirt will be untucked and I don't care anymore.
Well, my son struggles with that with his shirt being untucked. Last Sunday, he's preparing the sacrament. I'm like, you need to tuck your shirt, the back of your shirt, and it's come out.
Well, you might see Reagan's underwear too, which actually that makes me laugh. I'm like, well, here we are. We're at church and perfect people.
How did y'all family on Evening?
Yes.
And how does that go for y'all?
We usually do it on Sunday. Honestly, just that works better for us. And I have found for our family, short and sweet. Short and sweet. And any conversation you want to have about the church any time of day can also count as family home evening because sometimes getting together, we just have a lot of things. Both Reagan and Blythe need alone time. They need to go have their stimming session where they're alone. They work stuff out. And I can ask both of them, like, what are you doing? And they will both say, and they did not talk to each other about this. Like, I just need to work some stuff out in my head. I'm just thinking about things. And I'm very respectful of that now. Like, I don't want it to happen in the grocery store because that takes up a lot of space and noise and bumping into people. But at home, sometimes you show up at my house, there'll be a lot of just random noises and running and hopping and hand flapping. And they're just working stuff out. This has nothing to do with the question you asked me. But my point is, we make what works with the time that we have. Like, I don't force long things. Like, now that we have the home church, and I know a lot of my friends, they do a whole hour. We would die if we did a whole hour. We would have children the gnashing of teeth. You want to see Laman and Lemuel, we'll bring it, right? So we're short and sweet. And honestly, the Spirit still works that way.
Right.
He shows up. So
yeah, it's not like you have to be sit down for 45 minutes in order for the Spirit to show up.
Nope. Because I've waited a long time some days. I'm like, he's just not coming today, is he? Because of us.
Right, exactly. Well, you got any favorite scriptures or any kind of how you personally study? What works for you as far as your?
Well, I actually have it's not very regimented, but I've done it every day for 5 years now.
Oh, wow.
In my patriarchal blessing.
Right,
well, I know, and I'm very proud of myself. In my patriarchal blessing, it actually says that I will feast upon the words of the prophets in the latter days. And I didn't realize when I started this streak of listening to a conference talk every single day, I listened to at least one every single day. I actually read my patriarchal blessing a few weeks ago, and I was like, I've been doing this. I'm actually doing something right.
Right, yeah.
But every morning, first thing I do, I always go to the gym first. That's my first thing. And if it's a Sunday, I'll do this while I'm getting ready for church. I put in my headphones and I listen to a conference talk, and it's the first mile I run, the drive to the gym, my warm up is always a conference talk. And I'll tell you what, that does not get you beast mode. It's not like you're not fired up to lift, but my mind is in the right place. I've started my day correctly. And so every single day, 1 to 2 conference talks. I still do my personal scripture study. I like to do that with lunch because if I'm eating, I won't fall asleep. I fall asleep really easily. There've been many a lunch with my face on a plate.
Really?
Right.
Wow,
oh yeah.
nice.
I'll be like, this is great and totally out. But if I'm listening to a conference talk, and the Lord has so many times, the message I needed has been 100%. I'm in October of 1999 right now, and I'm still getting messages from then that 100% apply to me today, that I feel the Lord knew I would be listening today. If I'm just listening, he's speaking. I just have to figure out the methods and the way. Right. So I heard one this morning that Sherry do, and I listened to it twice, and I was just like, this is for me today. I needed this today. And when she gave this talk in October of 1999, she didn't know, but the Lord knew I would need it today. And that's happened many, many times.
Well, that's good. That's a great streak, a great routine that you have. And Sherry Doo's a great speaker.
It's hard to run to a conference talk, though. It's like running's awful, and then a really somber voice talking about repenting. Like, oh man, this is gonna be a long mile.
Yeah. So this next question comes from, and it may have a little bit to do with kind of what you were just talking about, but it comes from the slogan, one of our slogans that we have on our podcast show, which is having gospel growth and good times. Because I know a lot of times being a member of the church, living the gospel can sometimes come across very rigid, right? You have to keep the commandments kind of attitude and things like that. I can't go and have any fun. So how do you and your family, what do y'all do to ensure that you have gospel growth and have those good times living the gospel?
That one, when you gave it to me, kind of stumped me, because I feel like I feel so much joy in my life because of the gospel, but it never feels like a party, right?
Right.
And I think one thing Sherry Doo said in her talk this morning, which I thought, again, here we are. She said, we can't get addicted to the things of the world that bring us temporary joy. Right. And I'm like, yes, it's so easy to get addicted to this high of going four-wheeling. I mean, who's not smiling when they do that, right? But that's such a temporary enjoyment. Yeah. And I get so much joy reading scriptures with my children. And I'm not lying when I say that, because it is not easy. There's always, again, Laman and Lemuel love to show up at our dinner table and say, this is awful. And even if we have, like, we do about 15 verses a night, some nights are not pretty. Some of it is not doctrinal at all. Every once in a while, we'll have this golden moment where I'm like, we talked about this. Someone asked a really astute question, and I'm like, who said that? One of you guys? Okay. And those are the moments like that. I want to tell the kids, see how we're laughing and enjoy each other right now?
Right.
Let's recapture this magic. It's rare, but
absolutely. I think it's kind of reassuring when you think they're not listening or they haven't listened at all, and then they'll answer a question, or they even bring something up that's on their own, and everything and stuff. So
life loves to ask, like, so what really constitutes a sin? And at first I felt like She wanted to know what she could get away with, because
Right,
that
right.
is her personality. But we've had a lot of discussions on some things are sin because it hurts someone else, and some are sin because it hurts God. And some things are just wrong, but not a sin. It's been really interesting to see this little 8-year-old brain process the morality behind things that we do on a really deep level.
Right.
Because I think sometimes we just hear a lot of no's at church.
That's right.
As a mom, I try so hard to say as many yeses, and I want to say no a lot. I don't want messes. I don't want to play trucks in the backyard, but I try and find as many yeses as I can to like, see this? Yes, we're doing a yes, guys.
That's right. Exactly. And that's kind of what I was getting to. It can kind of, you can't do this, you can't do that, and if you look at it that way, then it can get kind of depressing,
right?
Like I've got to keep the commandments,
yes,
and so forth. So exactly. I'm waiting for one of these videos to come out, and it may be a situation because, my family's a lot like yours when it kind of gets crazy and everything, but, video like you see on these the church website or whatever, and these great beautiful family home evenings and everybody's just sitting perfectly. I'm waiting for them to put a real video
right
on
right. Someone facing the wall.
That's right.
Someone with their face, you can see where the tears were.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I
would buy that poster.
Yeah.
I'd be like, this is real.
That's right.
Well, like the great David Lee Roth said, you got to roll with the punches until you get to what's real.
I like that. Absolutely.
That's kind of he's not a prophet, but might be.
It's a prophetic statement, that's
right.
for sure.
Well, actually, one thought I wanted to say has helped. Reagan loves church, Blythe does not. We've had so many people step in to help that situation. We've had so many leaders just reach out. Our primary president here has been relentlessly positive to Blythe, and that's helped so much because Blythe can sniff out a fake person really fast. She is no patience. She does not pity fools. And so we've had really great people just keep being nice, keep being positive, keep making her feel involved. And because she's kind of church resistant, getting her baptized was kind of a process because she wasn't doing it unless she was doing it on her terms, which is the right way. She didn't want to get baptized for no reason. She wasn't getting baptized for a cake and a party, which great. A lot of adults haven't figured that out.
Right.
But at the same time, had so many people just keep loving her anyway. Keep loving her when she announces things or purposely says the F word in church and things like that. It's been so many people that are just like, that's fine. We're going to love you anyway. And leadership for Reagan too, because he loves his church people. We had a scout troop camp in our backyard once because Reagan did not want to go on a camp out. So they brought the camp out to our house, and then he slept in his bed in his room, but all the other scouts were in our backyard. And I was like, cool. That's the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's right. Making it work for the person who just, this is how much they have to give. And they met him the 90%.
Right. Well, what advice do you have for any mothers out there who are in a similar situation, who have children with special needs, autism, and that may be really struggling to deal with what they're dealing with? First
of all, you are going to cry a lot. You're going to cry a lot, and it's okay. I wish I hadn't felt so like those, what we were talking about, the family home evening picture with the happy family sitting around. Like, I'm supposed to embrace this challenge. I'm like, no, I cry about autism all the time. And I feel like I'm an old hand at this point. So you will cry a lot, and that's fine. And there's actually a scripture I read yesterday, because the Lord loves to just throw stuff out if you're listening. And I thought, this is it. This is it. Because so many people say, I'm not ready. I can't do this stuff.
Right.
Who here's like ready for anything. Stuff's going to happen this afternoon I'm not ready for. But I thought this scripture was like, this is it. This is how he operates. It's from First Nephi 18, and Nephi's building the ship. And he said, and now I, Nephi, did not work the timbers after the manner which was learned by men, neither did I build the ship after the manner of men. But I did build it after the manner which the Lord had shown unto me. Wherefore it was not after the manner of men. And I, Nephi, did go into the mount oft, and I did pray oft unto the Lord. Wherefore the Lord showed great things unto me. And that's verse 2 and 3 of 18. And then verse 17, 50 and 51. And he said, and I said unto them, if God had commanded me to do all things, I could do them. If he should command me that I should say unto this water, be thou earth, it should be earth. And if I should say it, it would be done. And now if the Lord has such great power and has wrought so many miracles among the children of men, how is it that he cannot instruct me that I should build a ship. And those two verses are it for me. Like, it's going to be a very slow process. And my dad used to always call football a game of inches because you win by inches.
Right.
Well, so is parenting. And an inch forward is an inch forward. And if you pray oft, you'll figure some stuff out. Some stuff takes a long time, some stuff doesn't. You have to be clinging to the Lord. And you will feel like you need to cling to the Lord. You'll feel so lost some days. But if he will instruct you, he will find the way that's meant for your family. It won't be other people's ways. My sister who has a daughter on the spectrum, my son who has my brother who has a son on the spectrum, they do things differently and they have success in their ways. And the Lord has led us to our ways. And if I'm listening, and it means I have to be quiet sometimes. I love to talk. This microphone is my best friend now. I'm taking it home. But I have to stop and be like, okay, well, you tell me now. And he loves that. He wants that. Like, guess what? I do have the answers.
Absolutely. President Nelson, in this past Come Follow Me lesson with the Doctrine and Covenants, or maybe it's 2 weeks ago. Anyway, he there was a talk that was referenced that he gave when he talked about receiving personal revelation, and he mentioned it taking weeks, months, and years. And so just like you said,
nobody likes the years part,
that's
right?
That's what it's like, man, really years, but it's true. And that's why it's a lifelong process, and becoming who Heavenly Father wants us to become is a lifelong process.
Yeah.
And everything. So, well, Heidi, thank you so much for being with us. And, I'm sure that a lot of people that listens to this and watches this will get a lot from it and everything.
Well, I want them to know I did my hair and makeup for them.
That's right.
It's a Friday. This doesn't happen.
Well, very good. Well, thank you so much again for being on the show.
So glad to be here. Thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely.